Unit 2 project. So this is the Jupyter notebooks. If I open that, so that's what I've been working on. I can restart a new note. So at the beginning I did all my imports. I imported the CSV files and I copied them into the house data and sales data to get working on. So at the beginning I started, I laid out my plan, which is I found which data frames need to be changed, which are these. I just looked into it using the .info, and it was pretty simple to find out. And then which ones have missing data. You can use .isNull.sum, so you can find everything that's a null. And lastly here, I added all the box plots to find if there's any outliers. And now each of these, the ones I graphed, almost had a outlier here, since that's a box plot and then these are all outliers. I had to do price on its own since I needed to change it to a string for a float for the sales data. So I began working on all of these. I did my plan. I wanted to change these, take care of these missing values, and take care of these outliers. So at the beginning I started with renaming all the files to have it as a lowercase snake case. That's a lowercase. And I dropped all the null values, since after seeing what's left after renaming them, I had, it was insignificant. Like, it was a insignificant amount, so I dropped them all. And the same goes for sales data. And after that I dropped the unnamed column at the beginning of both data frames. And I also dropped the year renovated, since it wasn't important at all. Like, the info wasn't of any use to us. And here I was changing the price. I removed the $sign, I took the comma out and changed it to a float, and then for the ID I changed that to a string. And that goes for both data frames. And here I'm changing the date time data type, and that's what I did for the house data. For treating the outliers, I have been looking through the data to see if they're like good to drop or we can use some of them. So for the bedrooms, I dropped all the outliers since I saw that they weren't as significant. There wasn't much outliers, so it was 76 if I remember correctly. And for the bathrooms, I only dropped the bathrooms that fit the query of if the bathrooms were greater than the bedrooms. I dropped those outliers, and I kept the rest since they seemed pretty reasonable to me, and I didn't want to drop all that data that we could use. And for the basement, I left them in since they seemed reasonable, because we had zeros if it didn't have any basement, and the basement size was always less than, like, the square foot of the basement was always less than the square foot of the living room, so I kept these. And for the living room, I kept the outliers as well, just seemed reasonable. And for the lot, I had to drop them because, like, some plots were huge, and first, like, I expected, like, the larger plots to have, like, a very good view, but many of them only had, like, poor views, so I just dropped them. And for the square foot above, I did end up dropping these because the the outliers were really off from the actual data frame median for the square foot above. So I dropped these. While for the year builds, it was only one. It was a year 1000, so I had to drop this anyway. Square foot living, I decided to leave that in because it was pretty close. It was pretty close for the square foot living 15. It was pretty close to the median, and I always noticed that it was pretty close to the actual square foot living of the house. So I guess having the 15 houses around you would have a similar size, so I just got these. And for the lot 15 outliers, I decided to drop these. I didn't get much outliers, so I had to drop these. And for the grades, I just left them in. And since they're only going from 0 to 13, for the price, I did decide to drop the prices that are like pretty off from the median because it didn't make sense having that size and then that price. So that's basically what I've been saying right here for the. And in the end here, I had to see which data was categorical. So it wasn't basically a number. It was more like a condition. So I had to change the waterfront. It's a yes or no. The view was 1 to 5. House condition was 1 to 5 as well. And I did this transformations by seeing like the unique values. So I knew I didn't have any nulls and I didn't have any like misspellings. So I just replaced those. Same goes with the view, as well as the condition. Yep, and then at the end I merged them on the ID and I saved it as a master.csv file. So I can go back here and that's just